This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network. Visit jabberjawmedia.com for more shows like this one.
Episode number 89 of That One Time on Tour is brought to you by the band Blacked Out. Blending a solid mix of skate punk and thrash, Blacked Out is what happens when four old friends get together to play music they would have been stoked on when they were teenagers. Their new EP, Wasted Breath, is out March 27th on Thousand Island Records, and the video for the title track, Wasted Breath, is up now on YouTube. For more information on Blacked Out, you can follow them on all the socials at Blacked Out Band and listen to them on all streaming platforms. Also, make sure to check them out on their Western Canadian tour with Belvedere this April. Now here it is, their new single, Wasted Breath.
1, 2, 3, 4! See that you always react when you see something out of your arrow. Do you want the world or what feels right for you doesn't make it the truth, so get off my back. Why waste my breath when you actively resist it? Refuse to see so much different way of life or experiences of this to lead. Go! So much hate to one way I relate is that I have discussed to do. It's not homophobic, it's sexist rhetoric, proclaiming it's warranted. Why waste my breath when you actively resist it? Refuse to see so much different way of life or experiences of this to lead. Go!
Hey, this is Scott Reynolds from All and the Pavers and the Steaming Beast and my solo stuff, and you're listening to That One Time on Tour.
Run for the road, 'cause it's going on and on. We'll be driving through the darkest night
everybody out there in podcast land, what is going on? As always, this is Chris Swinney, your host with the most for that one time on tour. If you are joining us for the first time, this is my podcast where I get to sit down with somebody in or around the entertainment industry and have a stellar conversation. So, how's everybody doing out there? I'm doing great. Last week was wonderful with my guest Adam Davis from Link 80 and Omnigon. You guys really liked it. I got some great emails. A lot of you guys are checking out the new Omnigon stuff, so make sure that you go do that. And also just check out all the awesome Link 80 stuff. Take a stroll down memory lane. It'll serve all of your ska punk memories well. So on this week's program, it's a good one, man. I've been waiting for this one for a long time. Mr. Scott Reynolds from All and the Pavers and his solo records. Scott is such a great dude, and we talked about so much awesome stuff. And I'm actually going to be helping him release his new record. It's not out yet. It is called Chihuahua in Buffalo. I'm going to play a song off of it at the end of the episode. But Scott needed a little bit of help with some of the, label type busy work stuff, and I offered my services, as you will hear at the end of the interview, where he's like, I'm going to take you up on that. And he has since taken me up on that. I'm trying to figure out some stuff for him right now. But before I get to my interview with Scott, I got to tell you about my sponsors. I do it every week. The band at the beginning of the episode, my wonderful new sponsor, Blacked Out. I love them so much. I love that Wasted Breath song that we just played. And they have a new record coming out of the same name, March 27th on Thousand Island Records. So go check out Blacked Out. They're going to be on tour in Western Canada with Belvedere, another band that I love dearly, in April. So go check out Blacked Out. I also need to always tell you about Permanence Tattoo Gallery, my favorite tattoo studio in the world in downtown Anderson, Indiana on Meridian St. Jacob Harrison, good buddy of mine and past guest of the show, is the owner. You guys need to go on over to Permanence Tattoo Gallery and get some ink. You can check them out on all the platforms at Permanence Tattoo Gallery. That's all the sponsors for this week. If you guys want to become a sponsor, hit me up. It's, bands, companies, whatever. Hit me up at tototpodcast@gmail.com or on any of the social media platforms at tototpodcast. I do want to give a shout out to our Patreon producers, Mr. Bob Foster and Mr. John Exton. Bob is out of Hemet, California, and John is out of Stafford, England, over there in the UK. If you guys want to get involved on a financial level to help the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/TOTOT podcast and join one of the tiers. There's 3 tiers, a $2 tier, a $5 tier, and the producer tier of $25 a month. The money really does help out. There's some cost incurred with doing this podcast, and my patrons help me keep it self-sufficient. So thank you guys so much. Check it out if you're interested. If not, it's always going to be free. Leave us a review. That would help as well. That's the cheapest way to help. Just go to wherever you listen, click follow, click subscribe, leave us a review. 5 stars would be awesome. That would help the show out. So go and do that. Okay, so there's some stuff I wanted to talk about here off the top. It's all kind of depressing stuff. I want to give a shout out to my friends in Puerto Rico. They just had a really bad earthquake, and our art director, Will Fellick from Will Fellick Design. Will, what's up, man? You just had a birthday. Happy birthday. But Will is of Puerto Rican descent. He's still got family there. And I've been talking with Will. He made a little art piece so we could, say that we were thinking of everybody from Puerto Rico. But I know we have some listeners from Puerto Rico, so I just want to say we're thinking of you guys, and we're pulling for you, and we hope that things get better very soon. And I really, really hope you're safe. Reach out and let me know that you are safe. And I'm actually planning a trip to Puerto Rico. So maybe maybe I'll put something up on the socials, and when I'm in Puerto Rico in a few months, we can all get together and hang out. I don't know. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd like to kind of do the meetup things like Shane from Lead Singer Syndrome does. Shane being in Silverstein, he travels quite a bit more than I do. So, if I can get out and meet some of you guys, that would be amazing. I know that a lot of my patrons, because a lot of them are Australian, I got to get down there and see you guys. And, shout out to Australia. I know you guys are still dealing with the fires, and I love your country so much. But I'm going to try to get there. And man, I've got 95 countries I got to get to, because a lot of you guys are from not in the United States. So I love you guys out there for the support. And, if you guys can donate to Australia or Puerto Rico, that would be amazing. Just go to the Red Cross website, or just make sure you go to a reputable website to do that. Also, this is the other little depressing part. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I am a huge Metallica fan. I talk about it ad nauseum. I talk about it all the time. And one of the big parts of Metallica that I loved since I was young was Cliff Burton, their late bass player that died in 1986. He was in a bus crash when they were on tour with Ozzy in Sweden. And if you're a Metallica fan like me, you know of his father, Ray Burton. And Ray, if you follow Metallica, or if you're, even maybe a casual fan, you've heard of Ray, you've seen his posts on the internet, you know how close he is to that whole scene, and everybody in that whole metal, kind of thrash metal scene, they loved him, and they always talk about how great Ray is. And he had, he donated to charities for music and school programs, and there's a scholarship in Cliff's name, and Ray was just a great guy. And every time I saw him on the internet or on TV or whatever, it just brought a smile to my face. I never got to meet Ray, of course, but I don't know. I felt like part of the family when I would see Ray, and I would see his posts and just see how happy he was and how like crazy he was about metal. And I don't know, he was just a really cool guy, and he passed away last week. And it's a really sad day. So I know that probably nobody in the Burton family listens to this, but I would like to say, my condolences. And Ray seemed like a great guy. And yeah, so I'm pretty sad about that. But Ray, you were awesome. You were 94 years young, and you lived a great life. And I know the metal community will miss you. And I don't know if I'm really in the metal community, but I feel like I am. And we're going to miss you, Ray. So shout out to Ray. Okay, so now I'm going to try a new segment. A long time ago, I asked you guys to send me in some stories that you had about guys that were on the show or girls that were on the show, like guests of the show. Like, do you have like personal stories with them? And I was looking through some stuff, and I forgot about this email that I got, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. I don't have any theme music or anything, but this is listener stories. So in the future, if you have a listener story, like you have a story with a guest that we've talked to, shoot it my way and I'll read it. So on this first installment of listener stories, I'm going to talk about this email that I got from Nathan Howe from Canada. And this is his listener story. It says, "Hey, Chris, my first story," because he gave me two stories, I'm only going to do one today. My first story is about Anti-Flag. Late 90s, maybe 2000, they were touring the New Kind of Army album. Myself and some friends went to see them at Call the Office in London, Ontario. Great venue. I've been there many, many times. Great show. He has a bunch of exclamation points. After, we walked to a Tim Hortons. Shout out to Tim Hortons. I love Tim Hortons. And bought a dozen donuts, realizing after that we didn't want a donut. LOL. We went behind the bar to see if the band would be there. Sure as shit, they were. We helped them load up their gear. Then we offered donuts. They loved them. They told us that they love Tim's when they are in Canada, which I think every band always talks about that. There's places when you're on the West Coast, you go to In-N-Out. When you're in Canada, you go to Tim Hortons. When you're in the UK, you go to Nando's, or South Africa, you go to Nando's. So yeah, Tim Hortons is a cool place. I know they're up around Detroit as well, because that's so close to Windsor. Say, where was that? Okay. We had purchased stickers, posters, and shit like that from them at the show. We mustered up the courage to ask them to sign our stuff. They absolutely agreed. After they were done, Justin pulled out a little black book and said, "You guys have our signatures. Now we want yours." We signed his book along with thousands of other people they met along the way. To this day, I still have that sticker on my first guitar. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen a band do with fans. So shout out to Nathan. Thank you for the story. I think that's wonderful. If you are out there and you're listening to this and you also signed Anti-Flag's little black book, hit me up and let me know. I think that is such a cool thing to do for your fans. I think probably now it's probably harder for them to do that because they've gotten to a certain level. But I think that's amazing. And if you guys have done that, or if you have a story similar to that, let me know. You can hit me up, tototpodcast@gmail.com, or all the socials, TOTOT Podcast. So Nathan, thank you so much for your story. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, if you have a story out there from a guest that has been on the show, please send it in and I will read it on a future episode. So that is it for the intro, guys. I'm going to jump out of here. I had such a great time talking to Scott, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here it is, my chat with Scott Reynolds from all kinds of other cool stuff. Here we go. And I'm on the line with Mr. Scott Reynolds. What is going on with you today, Scott?
Oh, not much. Sitting around watching the Bills. They just tied it up, but we already made the playoffs, so this game doesn't matter.
Yeah, I used to follow football a lot more closely. I live in Indiana, so the Colts have always kind of been my team. How do you feel about them?
Oh, they're fine. They're not the Bills, so
they're not the Bills, yeah.
And they're not New England, so I don't hate them. So,
that's cool. Yeah, well, I think that's if you live in Indiana and you like the Colts, you kind of hate New England too. So,
yeah, you gotta.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the program today. I've been a big fan of all of your work for a really long time, and it means a lot to me that you would come on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I like doing stuff like this.
That's cool, man. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go back and talk a little bit of your history up through today. I know that you're originally from Fredonia, New York, and you ended up kind of out in LA. Before we get to that, like growing up, how did you kind of get into punk rock and that kind of like the subculture kind of music stuff?
Well, when I was in middle school, I didn't really like the radio that much, so I listened to a lot of like Frank Zappa and stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm not really sure exactly how I got into punk rock. I think I was really into the Kinks. I was in a band with my brother and some other people. I played drums, and we played a lot of Kinks songs. And I think one day I heard the Ramones, and I heard that first the Sex Pistols record, Nevermind the Bollocks, and it reminded me of what I liked about the Kinks music because I thought that was kind of dead. So I got into it, and then there was a really cool college radio station here in town. That back then college radio was the thing, that if you wanted to listen to stuff that wasn't crap.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of bars that I would sneak into that had cool music, and I don't know, I sort of fell into it with things like the Circle Jerks and Dead Kennedys, and it all just sort of, came all at once, if I recall, and suddenly I was into it.
Were you going to any shows back then, like any punk shows?
Oh yeah, I went to stuff all the time. I saw the Ramones at a show it would have been 81, I guess, it would be around the first time there was like 150 people there, and it wrecked me. It was so amazing to me. And then when I went to college, I started a band in college. We were called XXY, and I was a drummer then too, but I hated playing drums.
Yeah. Lots of gear that you have to set up, right?
Yeah. Plus you're the only guy in the band that can't fuck up.
Yeah. Totally.
It's too much pressure. I didn't like the pressure. So, but because of that band, I started singing because it's the least pressure in the band. You could get in an argument with people and the song keeps going, so,
yeah.
I mean, when you screw up playing drums, everyone in the band is terrified and freaked out. And, anyway, so because of that, I started going to shows. I saw Back then you could see, 3, 4, 5 bands for $10 at some weird place, and, I saw like a lot of the bands that I loved. I saw the Minutemen. I saw the Circle Jerks a bunch of times. I saw, I don't know. I saw the Ramones like 5 times. I don't know. I did like to go to shows.
I envy you for actually seeing the Ramones kind of like in a small place. I think I'm a little bit younger than you, but the only time I ever saw them live was on Lollapalooza.
Oh, really? Yeah, the last time I saw them was on a thing called the Bumper Shoot when I lived in Seattle.
Okay, yeah.
Which was a great big festival, and it just wasn't the same.
Well, I tell you, man, I always was a huge Ramones fan, and coming from the middle of the country, even back in the day when I was, maybe able to go see them at a club or whatever, it just wasn't feasible because they never really came through. But I got to see them.
Right.
And it was just a couple years before Joey died, I think, and the lineup that year was crazy. It was Rancid and Metallica. Like, it was a huge Lollapalooza.
Yeah, Lollapalooza was a thing. It was an interesting thing. It seems like to me, to my recollection, it was kind of the first of this festival thing.
Yeah, I feel like there's always been those things in Europe, but like that was the kind of the first big thing the U.S. kind of brought to the table.
Right, and then the Warped Tour started or something. I don't really remember. I don't really like to go to festivals. It's not a good way to see a band, but
yeah, I don't enjoy it either. I used to work for this place down in Gulf Shores, Alabama, the Hangout Music Festival. It's like 3 days on the beach.
Yeah,
we had like Stevie Wonder and Tom Petty and the Chili Peppers, and man, I'd been to so many festivals playing music, and I like that and enjoyed that. But when I go to a festival to see a band, there's so many other bands I don't want to see, and they only play like a short set. Festivals aren't great.
Right. No, especially like I'll go to a festival if I know people who are playing, because then I can get like the all access and not be in the crowd and be able to get a beer and use a decent bathroom. But if I have to go and be out in the general, I just don't go. It's no fun to me,
So that band that you were playing in, you said you switched to singing when you were in college. Was that the same band?
Yeah. Yeah, it was XXY was the name of the band.
Did you always kind of know that you could carry a tune?
Yeah, I always sang. When I was a little kid, we had a music class, regular music class. We sang a song for Thanksgiving, the one that goes, "We gather together to dee 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 dee."
Yeah.
And Miss Stark was her name. Yeah, she said, "Scott, go up to the front of the class and sing it for everybody. They're singing it wrong." And it was really embarrassing, and I did it. And then she pointed me out to this middle school chorus director. I was a little kid, and then I had to do this solo thing. And so, I mean, I was always a reasonable singer, but I was always too shy. I didn't like doing it.
Yeah.
But it's easy to do it in a rock band because you can hide behind a lot.
You can hide behind a lot of stuff in a rock band. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just loud, and you can, yeah.
So, did you guys put out anything in that band, or was that more of just kind of like a hobby sort of thing?
There's a demo floating around, but I mean, back then it was not as easy to record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that would have been the mid '80s.
You really had to save up a lot of money and actually go to a studio and like do it the old school
way. Or you had a buddy with a 4-track, and you do it in the basement and it sound like shit, and that would be your thing. But yeah, so I'm sure there's something out there. Probably my brother has it. He liked it, but we were pretty terrible, honestly.
What kind of style was that? Was that more kind of like Ramones-y kind of punk rock?
Yeah, sort of, but I've always written kind of weirder, had a weirder idea of, I've never been Mr. Barchord guy. And actually back then, the stuff that I wrote on piano because I didn't know how to play guitar. Didn't really know how to play piano either, but so depending on which of the 3 or 4 of us who were writing songs wrote the song, whether it would be Barchordy punk rock Ramones crap, or it would be my weird circus music crap, but it was all crap. It was not good.
So, how long did that band last? You said that was in college. Did that last for quite a while?
Just a couple of years.
Yeah. And you guys were out playing gigs and everything?
Yeah, but I mean, I went to a college in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and every once in a while we would drive to Pittsburgh and play at the Electric Banana, and that was about it. And or we'd play parties, you know.
So take me to when you ended up finding yourself in California. How quick after college did that kind of happen?
Kind of right after college. This summer, right after I started a band around here with my best friend Dana, called Local Trauma, and we played some stuff. And Dana, he passed away a little over a year ago, but he was a big Descendants fan, and we liked the Descendants along with a lot of other bands. But the Descendants kind of sounded most like what I did,
yeah,
in my own personal. And on top of it, you know, he would get their newsletter and all that stuff. He was like mega fan, and in their photograph they weren't scary. So
yeah.
When the time came, you know, because I liked the Misfits and stuff, but I didn't want to go try to be in their band.
Yeah. The Descendants looked a little less, I guess, abrasive or less intimidating.
The first picture I saw of them was when Ray and Doug were in the band. That's the first time I saw them play. And on the picture, they were at a playground sitting on a slide, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah, nice."
So anyway,
nice guys.
Yeah. So they had a newsletter they had sent to all their fans. So Dana had it, and it had about Tony Lombardo, their original bass player, had a band, and he needed a singer. So I called him from the newsletter because Dana's like, call him, you're the best, do it. Because he was always telling me that stuff like that. And so I called him, and he said I'm the best. Okay, just so you know.
Okay, yeah.
That's the way he spoke to me. Anyway, so I called, and Tony answered, and I said, hey, I heard you need a singer. I sing, I play music and sing. And he said, okay, where do you live? And I said, Buffalo, New York. And he said, well, I live in California. And I said, I know. And he said, well, call me when you live in California. So, and that night we drove and saw the Descendants at a VFW hall. There was about 35 people there. And I said to Milo, hey, I just called Tony Lombardi. And he goes, Lombardo. And he's, so anyway, so I worked for a little bit after that and saved some money, and I worked for my father, and I worked at a restaurant. I worked at 2 restaurants, and I worked at it was like a advertising agency because I was an art major, and I saved up money. You want to hear a funny thing about that?
Yeah.
If you got time.
Dude, we had all the time in the world, man.
Okay, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I got out of college. I played in this band, and then Dana moved away, and I got in another band, and in this little town, and I was just a bum and a drunk.
Yeah.
And I was living at my parents' house, and I had bought an ounce of weed. Bunch of us, or several of us, chipped in, and it was in my coat pocket at home, and my mom found it. And my mom is, you know, not at all a hippie, and not at all like it may as well have been heroin to her, you know.
Yeah.
And I had an ounce, and that's pretty substantial. And so she came in the living room, and I'm living at my house, and she and my dad come in, and she said, hey, look at this. And she proceeds to tell me, you know, all of this stuff. And she throws it on the floor.
Yeah.
And storms out of the room. And my dad's really pissed. He's really pissed because I brought weed in the house, and mom's mad now, and his life is going to be bad. And I remember the whole time I'm staring at the floor going, please don't take that. Don't flush it or whatever. I owe people money or weed, you know?
Yeah.
So, Dad's like, hey, you know, this is bullshit. You can't live here anymore. You need to move out. You need to get your shit together and go find a place. And he goes, I'll give you, I don't remember how long he said, a couple months to save up and get a place.
Yeah.
And by the way, they didn't dump the weed. And I ended up going to my friend Pete's house. And anyway.
So what? They just like, how did you get the weed back?
They just left it on the floor, like forgot about it.
Oh,
she was so, and I picked it up and scurried out of the house with it.
Did they ever ask you where the weed went?
No, it just all kind of faded after that, you know, like, and it's all good now. My mom and I get along great. And I hope she doesn't hear this, but, because, but anyway, she,
shout out to Scott's mom if you listen.
Anyway, and Mom, I don't smoke weed anymore. But anyway, so I took the 2 months that Dad gave me, and that's why I had like 4 different jobs, because I was saving money to move out to Los Angeles to call Tony Lombardo back and go, this is getting convoluted as hell, isn't it?
No, anyway, this is great because it's great. It's great that you were like, I'm going to make this money. I got kicked out of the house. Dad's giving me time. I'm going to go to California and just hope that Tony hasn't found a singer yet.
Yeah, but the way I was looking at it was, if I go out there, I meet the Descendants. Like back then, being from where I'm from, I thought anybody that had a record was probably doing really well.
Yeah.
And if I met them, which was bullshit, you know, which I later found out. But
I mean, I've seen filmage. I know all about it. Yeah. Nobody was taking limos and around or anything.
Oh God, no. So but my plan was, well, go meet them. There was probably a musical environment out there that was, you know, with SST records and just all this stuff that I'd get out there and I'd meet a bunch of players and I'd find a good band, even if it wasn't Tony's. And, you know,
the Tony thing was kind of like the catalyst to get you going in what you wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, well, I'll get out there and no matter what, I'll end up, I'm not going to come back until I've done okay.
Yeah.
So I saved the money. And I remember my dad, he goes, he came home one day several weeks after the whole blow up, and I hadn't made a move at all. And I was sitting probably with my dirty feet on his coffee table, eating his Doritos or some shit. And he came in after he worked a 12-hour day and looked at me like, and he goes, have you figured out what you're going to do yet? And I said, yeah. And he goes, where are you going to go? And I said, I'm going to move to Los Angeles. He goes, California? And I said, yeah. And he said, geez, I thought you were going to say Water Street, which is the street here in town.
Yeah.
But anyways, and I said, nope, I'm going to California. And that's what I did. And I ended up in Hollywood because I didn't know Los Angeles at all. And that's kind of where my car stopped. Yeah. And I immediately got out. And then me and the guy that drove out, who I hardly knew at all, we got an apartment in Hollywood, right almost La Brea and Hollywood Boulevard, like right where the Chinese theater is.
Okay.
And we signed a year lease. And then I called Tony and I said, hey, this is Scott Reynolds. And he said, yeah, from Buffalo. And I said, yeah. I said, I live here now. And he was like, oh. So, yeah.
Had he heard you sing or anything, or this was all just completely just talking?
No, I just was like, I'll go over there. And he's like, well, come over and try out. And I brought him some tapes of me singing and stuff. And he's like, oh, this is great. Okay, let's do it. So we had a band for a little while.
So another thing, you know, moving out to California, you know, you're young, you said you got an apartment. Mm-hmm. Was it like really expensive? Because I mean, I've been out there, I've spent a lot of time out there. And I just know, like, I've had friends in bands that live in like Orange County and different places, and they come here to Indiana, and I'll go hang out with them, and they can't believe that like I owned a house, and so like
it was pretty absurd. The thing about it back then though, Hollywood at that point in time, that part of Hollywood was a shithole. It was like, it's been gentrified. It's done like the Times Square thing back when I went to go to New York City in college or whatever. Times Square was terrifying, with strip clubs and, and that's what Hollywood was prostitutes and it was bad shit. And so I had a chunk of change and he did too. And the guy I moved with, this guy, Paul, and we had enough to get our first and last month paid and then scramble. And then another thing that happened was before I left, I got beat up really bad by some guys and I took them to court and I won some money. So partway through my time out there, my money came through.
Wow.
And I was able, yeah. It was funny because I was coming out of a bar. I was really drunk and this dude walked by in this neon blue jacket. This is here in Buffalo area. And I said, wow, that's a mighty blue jacket. And they beat the crap out of me.
Jeez.
So after I got they beat me bad. And so the one night or after I got the money and I was going broke, I was almost going to go down to Hollywood Boulevard and just, hey, that's a mighty blue jacket to everybody that walked by. See if I can make it happen again. I don't know. But anyway,
every time you're hard up for money, you just get someone to kick your ass.
Just kick my ass and I'd ask them what their name is and track them down. But so I ended up running out of money completely. I was working at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel and the band I was in with Tony, we went on tour opening for the Descendants, which was like this crazy dream come true for me. And we went as far as Dallas, and then that band was called Boxer Rebellion. Boxer Rebellion. Can you believe that? Like, it's like what a peasant uprising in China in the 1800s. That's the Boxer. Oh my God. Anyway, what a stupid name. Anyway,
it's kind of a cool name, really, man.
I guess it sounds like a bunch of history buffs or something. But anyway, the band blew up in Dallas, and when I went on that tour, I lost my job at the Hollywood Roosevelt because I said, "Can I leave for 2 weeks?" And they said no, and I said, "Okay, I quit." I didn't come here to work in a hotel. So then I got a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, doing maintenance and washing cars and oil changes and stuff. And then I got fired from that because, this is all superfluous crap. The point is I ran out of money and I couldn't re-up my apartment. So I ended up living in my car in the Descendants parking lot, which maybe if you saw Filming, they were talking about that. I slept out in my car and I moved furniture in the daytime. And then, I'd get up, go to the Redondo van and storage, and I would move furniture. I drove a moving truck up around Palos Verdes and all that stuff. And at night, I would come back and sleep in my car. I put all my dirty clothes in the wheel wells in the back and make a mattress out of it and sleep there. And then in the morning, I'd get right back up and drive to Redondo and take a ghetto bath in the bathroom there, bathroom sink, and wash my armpits and crap. And then every once in a while, the Descendants, they had a shower in their thing. They would let me come in and take a shower. And
so by this time, you knew those guys pretty well from touring and like hanging out, right? They were like buddies of yours.
I knew them just from living in their parking lot more than anything else because we only went on tour for not even 2 weeks. But yeah, I was Stefan and I hit it off right away. We were good friends, and Milo wasn't around much because he did the one tour and then he was kind of done. I mean, I knew him enough to say hello, and I knew him, but really Stefan and I, and then and then they got Smalley in the band.
So at this point, all had like started, like you were kind of knew of them and were hanging around them before all even got going, right?
Yeah, no, they were the Descendants.
Yeah.
Like all those pictures on the Descendants All record around the van. I don't remember. There's like 4 pictures of them.
Yeah.
I was sitting there having a Coke watching them do that photo shoot. I mean, it was like we were all we lived in this little area
Yeah.
and like offices. So then Smalley got in the band and they changed their name to All, and I was in a band called 3-Car Pile Up, and another terrible name, and that's where Bill heard me sing, because in 3-Car Pile Up we did a demo and Bill produced it. And then it was funny because I remember he came up to me one day after he did the demo and he said, "Hey, Scott, who wrote Mary?" Because that was on like the 3 songs that were on.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 that were on Revenge. 3-Car Pile Up did. And he said, "Who wrote Mary?" And I said, "I did." And he goes, And he walked away. And then, so then they got Smalley in the band and they did some tours and stuff. And then Smalley came up to me before the last time they went out, and he goes, "Hey, there's a good chance you're going to be the singer after this." Right.
Wow.
And I, yeah, because he was done,
Yeah.
It just really wasn't his.
And he's originally from the East Coast as well, because he was in Dagnasty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But the difference between his situation and mine was he got plucked out of whatever he was doing to go do this thing.
Yeah.
And then immediately was on the road in a stinky van. And I think he just goes, I was fine with the way things were going.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, my life sucked. And then I moved out to Los Angeles, and my life sucked even worse.
Yeah.
I was living like a filthy animal in my car. And, so when they were like, "You want to play 200 shows a year and live in a van with 7 people?" And I was like, "Sure, sign me up."
Yeah.
And that was when it was really intense. I mean, it was an intense time. It had to eventually give, because we were on top of each other, and it was really hard.
Can you tell me a little bit about, once you got in the band, that pressure that I'm sure you felt? Because, the Descendants, that's what I always thought, even before I saw Filmage. In my mind, like, I liked both bands. I kind of saw them as separate entities. I even saw the 3 different singers and All as kind of separate entities. I think
I do too.
They all kind of had,
I do too.
It's almost like a trilogy. You know what I mean? And
well, you got to figure you got 25% of the personnel in the band not only helping you create the music but perform it.
Yeah.
And then there's also the internal vibe of 4 people. It kind of makes sense that a new singer. And then if you go to the final lineup of the Descendants, that's another thing, So yeah. It's still the same guys. And so when I listen to it, I don't understand people who think it's all this when they say it's all the same band. It just isn't to me, but that's just how I see it. But
so how was that pressure? Like, I mean, because there had to be some stress and some pressure and anxiety coming into something, like this, the guys from the Descendants, Milo's gone. And I'm sure people at shows were like wanting to hear Descendants songs and stuff. Like,
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think much of it. And it's kind of funny because for me, the Descendants Milo Goes to College record is one of my all-time favorite records. And it hit me at the time and hit the world as this thoroughly unique, still is, thing that I that lineup, that record was the perfect storm. I loved it. So I like the other stuff and everything, but that record to me is like, the Ramones' first record, where I'm like, that's the record. That's the shit right there. So I remember because they didn't want Smalley to have the pressure or something, and they decided not. And I'm speaking for them, so
yeah, I got you.
But they decided not to do the Descendants stuff, and so then Bill goes, "Do you want to do Descendants songs?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck yes, of course."
Hell yeah,
I love those songs. Right. So first record, our first show we played, and we had been practicing, and we were working on the new album. The first one was it Revenge?
Yeah.
No, first. Yeah. What is the first one?
I think it's Alroy's Revenge, right?
Revenge. Yeah. Revenge. Yeah. So we were working on that, and it was just all busy, and I just really didn't have a chance to process that I was actually like in the band.
Okay.
That I came to see. I'd been out there. I lived for a year in Hollywood and another year out in the parking lot. And so it didn't even really occur to me what I had accomplished. So then we played it. Are people going to be interested in all of this stuff?
Dude, this is exactly what this is about. It's long form conversation. Okay. And the people that are going to be listening that are fans of the bands and you, this is fascinating stuff. Okay. It's getting to hear.
It's not boring.
No, it's you telling these things that people are interested about for like an hour. Like that's what podcasts are so great, man.
Okay. All right. Definitely. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the first show was at a place called the Music Machine.
Okay.
On Pico in, I think, West Hollywood. Maybe downtown. I can't remember where it was, but it was in Los Angeles. And like I said, we were super busy, and it hadn't even registered to me that I moved out to Los Angeles and I was in, for all intents and purposes, the Descendants. Do
you think if you would have kind of like stopped to smell the roses and kind of like took it all in, it would have made a difference in any way?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. This is so. Okay, so we played with Celebrity Skin, which was a great band, Don Bowles from the Germs, and they opened for us. And they got done, and I thought, wow, that was great. Those guys are great. And at this place, there was a movie screen that came down in between bands. So they got done, put the shit up on the stage. I'm getting nervous even talking about it right now because I can remember the energy. And there I was. I got up to the microphone. The screen goes up. There's all these people watching, expecting Dave Smalley. And I'm standing there.
Yeah.
And
because there was no internet, I'm sure there wasn't like a huge announcement or anything, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But like I said, we were so busy, Bill didn't even get around to it or whatever. It was just a show in a warm-up show for us and stuff. But it was my first experience with this band, and so like the thing comes up, everybody's staring at me. And I remember the first thing I ever said into a microphone as a singer of all was, "Yeah, I don't know who you guys are either." That's what I said.
That's pretty awesome, though, man. That's a great first line.
I guess, but I remember it really well because I didn't know what to say to him. So then the first song we played was Mayaj.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So Carl starts, and dude, it hit me in the face like I got hit with a baseball bat. Like, what the fuck? Because that's Off Milo Goes to College.
Yeah.
And I'm in the band, and I never really thought about it, even at practice. But there's all these people watching me. I'm the lead singer, like I'm the upfront guy. And we're doing Mayaj, and I started to panic. And I was like, okay, this is stupid. I'm Scott Reynolds from Fredonia, and this is fucking stupid. What the fuck am I doing here? Like, and I wanted to turn around and go, Bill, this has been super exciting. I appreciate all you guys have done for me, and then fucking hightail it out, and get the fuck out of there. Yeah. Like, I just stood there going, this is ridiculous. And so I started, and I lost track of where I was, and I fucked it up.
Yeah.
And and immediately the people that came to see all and didn't expect to hear any Descendant songs were like pissed. And they're like, and that's the show where that one guy kept yelling, "You're not Milo." Right.
Somebody was, I remember hearing that on the documentary. He was yelling that at you?
Yeah. He was just yelling at me, "You're not Milo." And finally I go, "Dude, I know."
No shit.
I said, I'm not Mick Jagger, and I'm not, I said a couple other people, I said, I'm not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay? So shut the fuck up. And we finished this set, and I did my best. And I remember Bill made a beeline for the guy.
For the guy that was the guy that was yelling that shit?
Was yelling that shit. Yeah. And he goes, hey, what? He goes, Scott's our new singer. We wanted to do these songs again. Do you not want to ever hear these songs again? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, I just, and Bill's like, well, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, Milo's not in the band. We want to play the songs. Sorry. Don't come to the show if you don't want to. And the dude walked away like with his tail between his legs. But yeah, in answer to your question, yeah, it did make a difference when I finally realized what the fuck was going on. I probably would have played a better show had I realized it earlier and you know, but maybe not.
So how was the experience like going forward from there? Like how was the next, did you feel like you got stronger and more confident, or was it more sort of self-doubt and I'm just Scott Reynolds, that kind of thing?
No, I mean, I got more confident. I'm a pretty confident guy as far as in my abilities as a singer and songwriter. I don't suffer too much from any sort of weird inferiority thing or anything. It just hit me at that moment that, you know, holy shit, and the gravity of it, you know, because they were one of my favorite bands, and it had been such an organic process to meet them and I hung out with them a bunch and stuff. And I, you know, when they did the first All record and they had that song Alfredo's, I don't know if it was on Says or Prez or whatever, but they had that song Alfredo's, and Alfredo's, we used to go there a lot. It was this little hole in the wall at the time. There's several locations now, but it was tiny. And it had just the best Mexican food. It was so fucking good. And they had that song, and then Alfredo did this thing for them. Like he gave them a plaque with because they did an article in the LA Weekly or maybe the LA Times about this band and the song, and had pictures. So he made a dinner for them and had them all come down, and I knew what day it was going to be. It was like, let's just say it was on Wednesday. And I was living at that time, no longer in my car, 3-car pileup. We had a practice space. I was living down in this practice space all alone. And they would go out on tour and be super lonely there and stuff. Anyway. So anyway, they were back and they were going to do this thing on Wednesday, and I knew about it. So I went in their office because at the time, each of the guys had a desk.
Okay.
And I went around and I put notes when they weren't looking on their desks from each other. Like it said like, hey, Carl, I wonder if Scott would like to go on Wednesday. Stefan.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And I did it to all of them, you know, like, you know, Bill, maybe we should ask Scott. He likes Alfredo's. Carl, you know, and all in my crappy handwriting. And then I went down and on Wednesday, and I remember I had a black and white TV that my aunt gave me, and I would sit in the front of our practice space in one of those little sand chairs and watch, you know, Bonanza or whatever. Right. And it was right by the door, and I would leave the door open. So I left the door open and I was watching TV, and I knew like 6 o'clock they were going to head down. And so they all came rolling down the thing. And I remember one of them goes, hey, Scott, would you like to come to Alfredo's? And I was like, well, sure. That's really nice. I can't believe you would think of me that way, but thank you. You know? And so anyway, the point is we were already buddies and stuff. And it was, like I said, this long, organic, drawn out process that by the time they asked me to be in the band, I didn't really think of them as the Descendants anymore. You know,
they were just friends of yours.
They were just friends that we all lived in this place.
Yeah.
So when I heard Maya, just like, wait a minute, put on the brakes. You actually are in the Descendants now. This is stupid. You should just go home, you know?
Yeah.
So, but as time went on, you know, it got better as far as that went.
Well, and you, while you were in the group, I mean, you guys had a crazy work schedule, it seems like, from everything that I read, like the amount of records that you released, the amount of touring. Was it just kind of like, I know Bill comes from that Black Flag style of just, never stopping and putting everything into it. When you joined and you guys started the train, did it just keep going like crazy?
Yeah. And as soon as I quit, they seemed to be able to slow down. They got the Interscope thing and stuff, and they had, because I mean, we did it out not as a promotional thing as much as out of necessity. It's the only time you make any money is when
you
you're
guys
on the
were
road.
Feast or famine. If you're not on the road, then you're not eating, right?
Yeah, and it was terrible. I mean, when I joined, I left that little practice space and moved next door to the Senna's practice space, and I had a shelf that I built over where Bill kept his drum gear, and that's where I slept, on this shelf. And then, we would go out on tour, and it was a Dodge Ram van, and was extended, but we slept. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people.
Wow.
In that van slept, and we were on the road for 200 shows, and then we would come back. I remember one time we did about a month across the United States. I saw it actually in a newsletter that I found when I was digging through some shit. We did almost a month, just maybe 3 weeks to get across the United States and make money. Then flew to Holland in November. We did whatever. And then we flew to Holland and we did 52 shows in 60 days.
Wow.
Came back, took 2 weeks off, and flew to Australia on Christmas Day and did Australia. Then come back and make a record.
Yeah.
And
so it just never stops.
It was the problem. The thing is, in Europe back then, it was crazy because all the money was different.
Yeah.
In every place, and all the food is different, and the money and you go and you just go bang, 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 and you're in all these different countries. And, you get to a point where you just are absolutely confused.
Yeah.
And like confused in a panicky way, not in like you going like, I smell, I haven't had a shower. This is horrible. I want to die. There's no food. I don't know what people eat around here. What language do they speak? What's the money? I remember I used to go into like a store, we'd get stuff, and we would just throw a big pile of change, because change is money there,
Yeah.
on the counter. And the guy would go, I don't know, how much is it? And the guy would do it out for us, or the girl, and you just trust them because you go like, I have no fucking idea.
I've been there before, man. I know all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I just pay $50 for a bologna sandwich?
Yeah.
But we would do it. And God, it was, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade it. And I loved every minute of it. Well, no, that's not true. But on the whole, there was this sense of pride because, we were like, we can't be beaten. You can't break us, and we actually were so anal retentive about the music at the time that if we had days off on tour, we would practice. We would find a place to practice. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's crazy that you would like practice in the middle of a tour where you've already played like 50 shows.
Right. And then we talked to whoever the promoter was and go, is there a practice space we could get into? And he would find us one, if we could find one, somebody's basement or whatever. Yeah, we did it in the United States. We did it everywhere. And then we played 200 shows. And yeah, I mean, a lot of times the practices, though, were to get stuff for the next record going.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to practice?
Because, I mean, when you're in that cycle where you guys have to put stuff out, you have to have something to tour on, then you have to tour. You can't really take a break. You have to almost write the next record on the road, right?
On the road, yeah. That's what so many songs were written on our Van Beater, called it the Van Beater guitar. It was a hollow body Dan Electro that was in the piece of shit guitar. And a lot of the songs were each of us wrote when we had a minute to pick up that guitar. And yeah, it was crazy.
So why don't you tell me, I'd like to know kind of how, you guys end up in Missouri because it was cheaper and you guys were never in California. How did it feel for you as somebody that was from, New York? You went out to live your dream in LA. You finally get into this band, you start touring, and then you find yourself in this little place in Missouri. How did that feel for you?
It was fine. That's something that Bill and I were just talking about the other day. How lucky we were that I go back to the perfect storm analogy, that you could find 4 people that were willing to do that, that wanted to play the music so bad that they go, well, what do we have to do to make this succeed? Los Angeles was we had 2 office spaces. One was our office and one was our practice studio that we lived and slept in. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And even in the South Bay. And so Bill's dad owned a house in this little town, Brookfield. And he's like, well, if we move to Brookfield, we'll have, everybody gets a bedroom and like little things that other people take for granted, we would have.
Normal stuff.
Yeah. Like I close the door and I'm in my room and no one can come in here.
Yeah.
And, so, when he said that, the thing with it, with that band is that Bill, it's Bill's baby.
Yeah.
It's Bill's. Everybody has their little piece of it. And it's one of the reasons I quit at the time was because it wasn't mine at all. I felt like I was helping steer someone else's car. And for a while that was perfect for me. I loved it. But at a certain point I thought, so anyway, he said, that's the deal. And we were like, okay. And then when we got there, we were all fed up with the South Bay anyway, because the way we were living, there were always tons of people hanging out and noise and drinking and, and I'm very susceptible to the noise and drinking,
Yeah.
I'll gladly participate. So like a lot of it, was like, well, let's try some peace and quiet. And when we got there, we were freaked out. It's a very small town.
Yeah.
And the people in the town didn't trust us. And we lived in this house. What did Carl say? It was like the Monkeys TV show, only.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Yeah.
And it was filthier. Yeah. Or whatever the hell he said. It was perfect. I mean, that's what it was. And the fishing was really good. So you come back from tour and you go fishing or whatever. Bill and I used to play basketball across the street at the school. And, it was, when you're in a band that's in a million different cities all the time.
Yeah.
The luster of Los Angeles kind of fades, Well,
that's why I always liked where I grew up in Indiana, because I'd be on tour with my bands. And when you get home, it's kind of like this decompression thing. You don't have to look for parking.
So exactly.
Yeah. I grew up in Indiana, man. And I had friends that were like moving to LA and New York. And I'm like, man, I like to come off a tour, being gone for a couple months. And I come home and it's this little tiny speck of nowhere out in the middle of a cornfield. And I can just hang out and not have to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, that was true. And when I left here, I wanted to go to the city, but I also left here because I wanted to be a musician, and I knew the only way I could really make it happen was either to land something in New York or Los Angeles. And I knew where the labels were and the people were, and so I left. I didn't go there because I loved Los Angeles. Yeah. Los Angeles has its appeal, but it's also a fucking pain in the ass to live there. So we got out in the middle of the boonies, and I was cool with that. That was fine. I think we all were.
So when you left the band in 93, everything online says differences in touring schedule, but you just kind of said that, you were it kind of got old pushing someone else's dream and not really feeling like you had ownership in it. So was that pretty much why you left?
That was it. Yeah, that was it. I mean, a lot of what was said around it was just, trying to keep a good face and stuff. But I quit because I was done. I wanted to go try to do my own stuff. And I felt like a lot of the decisions that were made at the end there I felt like the band was kind of headed in a way that I didn't want to go. I like when, the song Can't Say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Da-na-na-na-na-na. I love that song. And I thought it was really good. And it was the B-side of the single to me. And to me, that was like, that song was exactly why I liked the band and why I thought people liked the band. And I thought it was headed toward a more of a heavy rock thing as opposed to the weird, almost jazz influenced kooky shit that we were doing.
Yeah.
And I lost kind of interest in that. Like I didn't really want to be in a rock band as much as I wanted to be in a band that didn't kind of think about what kind of band it was and just, made whatever music, and I think that Bill was on a place where he wanted to head in a more rock. He had a definite direction he wanted to go. And then on top of it, I wanted to drive my own, boat. I wanted to do my own thing just to see if I could do it. So, yeah, I mean, it was really, they say creative differences. There was a lot to that. And there was also my own personal fulfillment that felt like I was neglecting. So,
and I mean, you guys left on good terms though. Meaning you guys are all still friends. There doesn't seem like there was ever bad blood, really.
No, there was a little bit of like, there always is, in a divorce, which is kind of what it is. But no, we get along great. I just recorded a solo thing with just me and my guitar and out at the blasting room like last month or so, a little while ago. And it was me and Bill and we had a hoot. We had a blast,
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, it was great. It was great. And then we just did, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, speaking of the blasting room, I know that you were a part of the 25-year anniversary shows that they had out there.
Yeah.
How was that for you, getting up on stage and jamming with the guys again?
It was fun. And the thing about it is that's weird is that, the most fun I had doing that was practice.
Okay.
Because it was the four of us in a practice room again. You play in bands. That's where you're a band.
Yeah,
the rest of it's a show. But in the practice room, that's when you fart and somebody goes, that's where your buddies again.
Yeah.
And we just had the nicest, funnest practice to play all those old songs again. And the weird thing about it is though that the songs sound to me very much the same. I remember everything I remember, but I look around and everybody's old. and it's a really, since we don't do it very often, it's a really weird feeling. And to me, it's, for some reason it's comical. It's not bittersweet. It's just funny to look around and see us. And then, there's one song, what is it? The one where the line is, she's got a fake ID and somewhere else to be,
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And I'm in my freaking 50s going, this is ridiculous. And it's just silly. And so like when we were playing live in the show, the entire time I was on the verge of laughing. It was both happy to play the songs again because I really like the songs and happy to be with my friends again. But it's also very comical to see, us old farts singing these. All, at least my era of it, the music. It's not like the Stooges. Like the Stooges can play till Iggy's, just one slab of beef jerky skin and hair, and the longer they do it, kind of the more sense it makes because it's just this grind. But all is very, very kind of age appropriate or something. I think like everybody in the audience, I look out in the audience and everybody's, people I know from years ago and they're all old and we're all old. And it's just, and then we're singing like Scary Sad. And it's like, this is so silly and fun in a good way, in a happy way.
I bet you would be surprised though, at the amount of kind of like generational stuff with a band like Descendants and All. I mean, I guarantee Okay, I'm 41. My son is almost 4, and we listen to both bands all the time. And I mean, he's only like almost 4, so he doesn't really know what's going on.
But he's 4. I mean, he's 4.
When I play the songs, though,
when
like
my daughters were little, they loved all the best shit. Not that my stuff's the best shit.
Yeah.
But and then before I knew it, they hit puberty, and it was, oh, okay, so you like that now. I get it. But I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't know how much it translates to younger people or not. It's just funny.
Well, I had this conversation about Metallica with somebody on the podcast the other day, because I've always been big into them. They were a band that kind of got me playing guitar. And I had this conversation with somebody about how, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, their new record that came out last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was, there are kids going to see them play now where that's the only record they own.
I know.
Like, that's freaky. And I think that with a band,
but
I talked to Stefan when he was on the program last year. I went and saw him in Indianapolis, and we had a big conversation, and we were talking about how when they play now, and I would agree if all went out and did a tour, that it would be the same way. There's so much influence from parents and from all these things that, like, he said that he noticed, grandparents with grandkids, like 3 generations of people at the Descendants shows.
No, and I think there's probably an element of that, but the Descendants are like, my version of all is this clump from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it went away. So the whole music industry right now, especially for our style of music, but all right, when I was a kid, we had hubs of information. We had like I said, the college radio station. Then we've had our favorite record labels, and we had our favorite record store, and even our favorite guy that worked there that you go in and go, hey, what's up? We got some shit on import you're going to love, and music was spread through several small channels,
Seemed like spread pretty organically.
Yeah. And especially through labels like Alternative Tentacles and SST and Discord. And anyway, and nowadays, kids don't have that.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about going out to see bands when I was little. When I was young, I saw, I think the Adolescents, Circle Jerks, Wasted Youth, and somebody else in San Diego for like $5,
Yeah.
And at some shitty room somewhere. And it was wonderful. And nowadays, and then also back then, all the recording was expensive. It was like you were saying, it was all analog. It was all like you had to pay for the 2-inch tape, or get one, borrow one. You had to buy the 1/4-inch tape, and then you had to pay for the studio for $25 an hour. So people had to be freaking serious when they made a recording, or they didn't. Consequently, a lot of people that play music now and have records or whatever you call them now, band camps or whatever, suck. They would, all those years ago, they wouldn't have even considered having a band. They would have gone.
It would have been too much of a commitment to get the band going. I get what you're saying.
And they would know they're not good enough.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be somebody, maybe not know they weren't good enough, but you have to know you're good, or at least believe you're really good, to put that much time and money into something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you can, with GarageBand and shit, you can digitally record an entire CD, and that's why, like, a lot of people don't even play music. They make beats and talk and stuff. Not bagging on hip hop. I'm just saying, like, everybody's got a fucking record now, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't find cool bands. You can't, like, cool bands back then could make enough money to sustain themselves just by going on tours. There were small promoters. You didn't always have to play a fucking festival.
Yeah.
You could play rooms. You could play, you had fanzines in the towns and stuff. All of these, as you say, organic ways to find the music. Now, everybody's got a band. Everybody's got a recording. Everybody's got a band camp. There's no label help because these little tiny labels aren't helpful. They can't do anything because they used to be like distribution was important. You don't need any distribution now. So these kids, they go, if they want to be into punk rock, they go watch, like I was watching when Flag played last. Those guys are old.
Yeah.
And there's these young kids watching Black Flag. And I'm sitting there on stage going, don't you guys have your own bands? Don't you have a scene? What the fuck? That'd be like me going to watch fucking Buddy Holly or something like, and it's like, they don't.
Yeah.
Because they can't, because it's not possible. The only scenes they have are like DJ scenes and stuff, which is fine. I'm not being an old fart, but
the internet
and
I'm just saying and I've talked about this on the podcast as well. The internet and, technology making recording so easy and everything that you just talked about, I think is wonderful. And we can make better music and we can do things easier by emailing tracks and whatever. But I think it also watered everything down and also made everyone lazy, because I teach guitar for a living and I'm dealing with these, 12 to 18-year-old kids. And I ask them, what do you listen to? And they're like, I don't know. I just put a playlist on Spotify. And I'm like, well, but do you hear things on there that you like? And they're like, yeah, but the playlist is just going to play other stuff that sounds like that. So why would I investigate any further? And
exactly. And even if they could, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, on one hand, it seems like it would be like, I have this kid that I teach and he loves Black Flag and he loves all of the kind of punk rock bands that I grew up listening to as well. And I asked, this kid's like 15. And I said, how'd you find out about him? And he said, well, I went to the little record store down by the college and he actually saw the vinyl. Nice. And so he's doing it the old fashioned way, but that is the exception to the rule.
Yeah. And you can do it the old fashioned way, except for where he's lucky that record store is near him.
Well, yeah, we live in Muncie and we have Ball State University and there's a place called Village Green Records and it's old school, man. They've got everything you've ever wanted on vinyl. And there are this kind of subsect of kids, I think, that are interested in music and are like those collector vibe kind of guys like I was when I was young, and they're still doing it. But like I said, that's maybe 1% of all kids in this country.
And they're the exception. Yeah. And I don't think kids have changed. I don't think they're lazier or anything else. I think people say it's easier now. It isn't. It was much easier when we were kids because the scene was the scene and it beat you over the head with itself. And it was the only place to go. And like the old school hip hop or and the punk rock, I guess those were basically the two that I'm familiar with, but they staple flyers to telephone poles and you go watch some band that was on tour at a VFW hall and it was there and it was available and this kid that's the exception that you're talking about, that was the rule because it was the only thing there was.
It didn't used to be weird that happened. That was the rule. Nope. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
That was it. And college radio back then they had the CMJs, which were the college charts. And then they had the New Music Seminar in New York and you go and you could hear so much shit that you never heard because there was some cool kid at a school who had a good show and it all died. And that's why when I go to punk rock bowling this year, cause there were a lot of good bands and since the Descendants were playing, I got to go do it. And, and I saw Specials and I saw the Stranglers and I did over, Adolescence and I'm sitting there going, this is crazy. This is a festival and everybody playing is really old, and it's a bummer for me. I think it's great for me as far as like maybe I'll get a chance to go and see it. But I like I said, I love that kids love Black Flag and they should love Black Flag, but they should. Jesus Christ, Donald Trump is our president. We've been at war for how long? And I don't hear any raging punk rock because
I was talking to somebody about that too, because like in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought when he got to be president, I'm like, well, the silver lining is there's going to be a lot of great punk rock.
So, yeah.
And then it just never happened.
No.
And I think that
No.
bands like, Anti-Flag and bands that you would expect would do something, what I've seen from them, and I actually had a couple of them on the show as well, I think they're pouring their energy into supporting causes and being proactive and trying not to give him any extra attention. And I can see that side of it,
I'm not talking about Anti-Flag, and I'm talking about the puke fuckers in Flint, who are all 16 years old, because that's what we were. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And that shit doesn't. The 16-year-olds are going and watching Flag at a festival, and you just go, wow, that's too bad. But I could be wrong. I'm not in the loop. I could just be this old fart that goes, these kids today, they might be going, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We do all kinds of shit you don't know about. But, but
dude, I feel the same way because I'm around kids all the time. And when I ask them about music, it almost makes me pissed off. And I feel like the old curmudgeon that doesn't get it,
Yeah, and I'm sure there's an element of that to it. I'm sure a lot of the point I miss is the same thing my parents missed when I was listening to Dead Kennedys, But I mean, I feel bad for my kids. They're grown now, but they're still young. I feel bad for them because they didn't get to sneak out of the house and get drunk in someone's garage and watch an amazing punk rock band.
Yeah,
they didn't get to do any of that shit. And that was really healthy for me and healthy for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
To go.
I mean, I had those experiences, and I think maybe those experiences, maybe me and then the kids that came up right after me were maybe the last ones that really got those experiences because things have changed so much,
Exactly. And the thing is, for someone like me, maybe not so much me because I'm not in a high enough up the ladder for it to pay off for me. But okay, like the Descendants, they were lucky enough to get out, become quasi-legendary or whatever you want to call it before the garage doors slammed. And so everybody who got out underneath the door, they're the ones playing the festivals because they're the ones that are, it's like a rock star is always cool. If he died young enough, he'll never get, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when the door slammed on the punk rock, they were carrying the banner. And so for eternity, they will carry the banner. So you're going to get 18-year-olds who are pissed off and sad that go and watch a 60-year-old guy sing about his mom and dad. And it's the weirdest thing,
That's awesome.
But it's like, well, you are forever flying the flag, you can even make a shitty record and you won't, they'll just go, well, don't play the new one, and they'll still come and watch.
Well, you were just talking about, like the whole thing that we're talking about with the kids and how they find music. That makes total sense because some of these bands that are coming up now and they're having, big singles or they're getting, 100 million streams on Spotify or whatever. I don't feel like that's going to have the same staying power. Like who's going to be the future Descendants?
Who is the face of it? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's weird.
And you got people talking about like Green Day. And you're like, Green Day, they're just fucking rock stars. Who gives a fuck about Green Day?
And I mean, honestly, they're only like a couple years removed from the Descendants and bands like that.
They're old too. Yeah. It's like, that's who's carrying the flag for you guys? That's so sad. I saw the Minutemen at Mother's Junction, or maybe the Mason Jar, maybe it was called, in Kent, Ohio, and there were 50 people there, maybe more, and they just tore it up,
Yeah.
And I was like, I am so lucky to be a part of this, I even talked to D. Boone for a few minutes.
Wow.
That's the only time I ever met the guy before he died. Yeah, I remember I said to him, I was looking at their tour schedule on their shirts, and at the time I wasn't in all yet, so that seemed impossible to me.
Yeah.
And I said to him, geez, I didn't know what to say. And I just wanted to say something to D. Boone, So I walked up to him and I said, gee, a lot of shows, man. How do you play so many shows? A stupid question, or whatever. and he looked at me and he goes, Just write lots of songs, dude. And I was like, oh, that's the best thing I ever heard.
That's the best answer to that question too.
Just write lots of songs. Yeah, that's all he said. And it was like, wow, I wish I could be so cool just once in my life. But yeah.
Well, you were pretty cool when you said the thing about, I don't know who you guys are either. That's a pretty good comeback, man.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I think that's probably a good way to tie it all back together. I like to keep these things around an hour.
Yeah.
What's going on with your solo stuff? Is there anything coming up in the future? Because that's one thing we didn't really talk about, but I'd like to know if you still have that stuff kind of coming out.
It is. I'm not sure what to do with it. It's very difficult for me these days. I don't have a label. I don't know what a label's for anymore. Like I said, because there's no distro. They help you get on a decent tour, I guess, and help with some publicity. But I'm really bad. Other than the music, which I'm either good or bad. I'm confident with myself that I'm doing what I need to do with that.
Yeah.
But as far as publicity and everything else, I don't know anything. But I have this record I recorded. It's like old and new stuff that I play these solo shows where it's just me and my guitar, and it's but then I sell like the Pavers records and stuff and then people come who kind of don't know who I am, and then they go to the merch table and buy a record that sounds like punk rock or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure they go home and go, what the fuck is this? This isn't what I wanted. So Bill and I were talking a while back, and I told him about whatever, and he said, well, why don't you come out and record at the Blasting Room and we'll have fun. So I recorded 12 songs, just me and my guitar. The record's going to be called Chihuahua in Buffalo because of my dog and this cool picture that my girlfriend took. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to put it out, but I'll definitely keep everybody posted.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that you could do it, I mean, this is just me spitballing, but since you have some name recognition because of things that you've done in your career, you could just put it up on Spotify through DistroKid and probably at least be able to tour it, if that's something you wanted to do. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. I've also have an idea because I was an art major and I'm a painter. And I noticed that what I sell, I don't sell a lot of what I sell, but I sell pretty much the same amount no matter how much it costs, because the people that get me and like what I do are pretty loyal, and interested. And so I was thinking of maybe doing something that was a little larger, a little more like my price point would be higher, but it would also be a much cooler product.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of doing a record with art and lyrics and short stories and remember when you were a kid and you got a record at school and it came with a book?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The art and everything was just like, it was all like a package, you know what I mean? Everything was a part of everything else. Right.
So I thought I maybe find a way to do like a coffee table book with various types of recordings and writings and stuff, and sell it as a bigger item. Because it's really tough now to sell anything,
Oh, definitely.
And and I think I'm going to do that. I just don't know how,
Well,
but I can figure it out.
If you need any help at all as far as like the streaming or any of this distribution stuff without a label, hit me up, man, because I know how to do all that shit.
You know that crap?
Yeah, I could totally help you out, man. I feel like we've become bros now, so.
You have no idea the shitstorm you just walked into.
Well, now we're buddies, and I'll help you in any way I can, man. I love doing that busy work
I appreciate
stuff.
that.
I used to work for a couple labels, and so I got fairly, indoctrinated into how all that stuff works. So if there's something I can't do, I can figure out somebody that can help us.
I'm definitely gonna take you up on that.
Awesome, man. Well, you came on my show, and now if I can help you out, I will, man.
Yeah, this has been really hard to be on your show. I'm sitting in a chair drinking coffee, talking on the phone. So, yeah.
Well, so what about like new all stuff? Is there, when I talked to Stefan said it's just really hard to kind of coordinate everything. And there's so much going on with the Descendants now that it's kind of hard to get that in there.
I don't honestly, I would think that a new all record, at least one with me, is pretty unlikely. I mean, it's been almost 30 years since I quit the band, and those guys are doing great with the Descendants, and I'm doing my stuff. I would never say never, but there are absolutely no plans. And
okay,
I
just had to ask. I'm sure my listeners would be pissed if I didn't ask you that.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. And you never know. Sometimes we get talking. Stefan and I were going to do this 40 engine thing a while back.
Yeah.
It was the two, and we keep threatening each other with it. So that may happen. But as far as all goes, there's no plans at all,
Okay.
And they might have some with Chad too, because for all intents and purposes, he's actually the singer.
Well, yeah, I'm going to try to get Chad on. Chad actually only lives like an hour and a half away from me. So he lives in Bloomington now.
You should get him on. Yeah, he's such a good guy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get him on. When I went to see the Descendants last year when they were in Indianapolis, I had to leave early because my daughter had a doctor's appointment at like 6 a.m. And I heard as soon as I left that Chad came out and did an all song with them. And I was so pissed off.
You blew it.
I blew it, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on today. I would love you to come back in the future. We can tell some more stories, or maybe when you have something, when that record comes out, I'd love to have you back.
That'd be great. Awesome. That would be great. And I'm going to hit you up. So,
well, yeah, you've got my number. You've got my Facebook, man. Whatever you need, I'll help you with, bro.
Right on, man. Thank you so much.
Well, I will talk to you very soon. Have a wonderful New Year's Eve coming up in a couple days.
Don't you tell me what to do.
And,
all right.
And
yeah,
I didn't even ask you. Say hi to JB for me, your little dog.
I will. You have a great New Year's Eve too. I'm working, so but yeah.
I'm gonna be hanging out with my in-laws and my kids and my wife, so it might be
better.
It might be about as fun. I don't know.
That's better. No, because I'm gonna be bartending with all the amateurs, and it'll just be ugly. So
okay, man. Well, I tell you what, when that new record comes out, you're coming back, and we're gonna talk all about it.
You got it. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll talk to you later, Scott. Thank you so much, man.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
So there it was, my conversation with Mr. Scott Reynolds from All and the Pavers and his solo stuff and all kinds of cool stuff, man. Scott is such a great guy. And I love right there at the end of the interview, he's like, I'm going to take you up on that. And so we've been brainstorming back and forth, and I'm going to help Scott with the new record. And it's such a good record, man. It's amazing. It's just him and a guitar. He did the whole thing at the blasting room with Bill Stevenson producing. And I love Scott's voice. I love his melody choices. I've loved it all the way since All, but his solo records are so great. And this new solo record, Chihuahua and Buffalo, you're not going to want to miss it, man. It's going to be awesome. And you'll be hearing more of it right here on this program. Because like I said, I'm going to help Scott as much as humanly possible because I believe in the record and I think it's really, really good. So that's it for this week. Thank you guys. I know this is a long episode and some of you guys like that. Some of you guys hit me up and you're like, I really like the long ones. So I'm going to, keep on putting out the content. I hope you guys are enjoying it. But next week on the program, it is one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. I got to sit down with Mr. Dave Brown Sound from Sum 41. I got to go hang out with them a little bit before Christmas up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the guys in Sum 41 could not have been nicer and more hospitable. And Dave and I have an amazing conversation. We have so many mutual friends from the Toronto area that we didn't even know about. So next week on the program, you got to wait a whole week to hear Dave from Sum 41, but it's going to be worth it. And they just had a little mishap. Mishap's really not the right word. They're on tour in Europe right now, and they were supposed to play in Paris. And I guess there was like some sort of explosive device that went off outside the venue. I'm pretty sure that everybody is safe and sound, but they had to cancel that evening's show. And it's just crazy, man, to think. I mean, it gets you thinking about a lot of stuff. They just had the big Dime Bash for Dimebag Darrell out there in LA. And past guest of the show, Rick Thorne, he was up there with Sin Dog singing Walk, and Dave Grohl was up there playing, and Scott Ian from Anthrax. It was awesome. If you guys have seen the videos, if you haven't, you need to go to YouTube and check out the videos from Dime Bash. But, you just think about, I was on tour when Dime got shot at a show. I remember that night I was on tour with a band called Brazil. They've been on the show before. And we were all just kind of sitting in the van, like, should we play a show tonight? Like, it's not like anybody was going to shoot us, but it's weird when you're not safe. And then you think about all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world right now, not just like natural disasters like Australia and Puerto Rico, but then you've got, people blowing stuff up outside of a venue when Sum 41's getting ready to play a show. It's just insane. And I'm not one of those cynical people that think the world is going to hell, blah, blah, blah. I believe in people And I think that down deep, most people are pretty good and have good intentions, but there is a lot of bullshit out there. And music has always been my escape. So if you're out there, we don't talk about mental health or anything on this show really, but if you're out there and you're having issues with anything, you can turn to music. I always have my whole life. It's kind of like music has been my therapy. And I know this sounds really deep and really stupid, but I think a lot of you guys out there understand what I'm saying. The world can get you down, but you've always got your favorite record. So, yeah, just that's all I wanted to say about that. But if you are having issues out there and you want somebody to talk to, I'm here for you. So you can hit me up and, I don't know, maybe I can help. Maybe I can't, but maybe you just need someone to listen to your stuff. And I'm down to do that. You're listening to my stuff right now. So if you need someone to listen to your stuff, hit me up and we'll take care of it. But shout out to Sum 41. Hope you guys are safe and sound over there in Europe. And you'll be hearing my interview with Dave next week on the program. I'm going to jump out of here right now. Hit me up on the socials at TOTOT Podcast. Before I get out of here, as always, I'm going to play some music. I'm going to play 2 songs today. The first song that I'm going to play is one of my favorite tracks on Scott's new unreleased record, Chihuahua and Buffalo. The song is called Tracy Hardman's Cheek, which listen to the lyrics and you might get the story. It's very good storytelling. That's what Scott's all about. And after that, I'm going to play my favorite All song that Scott was a part of, She's My Ex. It's classic All. I think you guys are going to love it. So as always, this is Chris. I love you guys. Thanks for the support. I will see you next week with Dave from Sum 41. Peace.
Patent leather shoes, rain that smells like dirt and driveways, how midday's purple shadows haunt the hills. Make me remember you and how you smell so much like candy. Yes, they do, and I wonder, do you still? I'm so far away from there, and I know that I'll never touch your cheek again. But you smelled like candy, do you still? Sour apple lips, painted toenails, drugstore jewelry, thoughts that wander up from man and you. When your newborn suggestions of hips and traces of curves next to me left me stupid, wondering what to do. The sad straight cicada song is a reminder that summer doesn't last that long, and dumb boys and young girls just pass through. Mid-September storm, the thunderheads roll in the distance. When they get here, I don't want to know if summer's less warm and kisses are less delicious. It's my own fault, I know I've made it so. But deep in my dreams somewhere are your lip gloss, eyelashes, and your soft brown hair. The breeze still blows warm and time goes slow. And at night when my memories speak I can still feel my fingers trace your sunburned cheek. And August is not so long ago. Yes, I remember you, and how you smell so much like candy. Yes, I do, and I wonder, do you still? You smelled like candy. Do you still?
Hey guys, it's Alice Lenny. And I see you. That's one time I turn.
This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network.